For a long time, you've been at war with yourself. You wake up with plans, but in the day disappointed. You know what you should do, yet somehow you don't do it. And slowly, quietly, a label attaches itself to your identity. Lazy, not once, not twice, but every single day. What hurts the most is not the failure, it's the belief that something is wrong with you. But the truth is far more uncomfortable and far more freeing. You were never lazy. You were trained to fail gently, invisibly, and repeatedly. No one ever sat you down and said, "This is how we break your confidence." No one announced, "This is how we teach you to doubt yourself." It happened slowly through systems that were never designed to make you powerful. From the beginning, you were taught how to behave, not how to think. Sit still, follow instructions, wait your turn, don't question authority, don't make mistakes in public. You were rewarded for obedience, not curiosity, for memorization, not experimentation, for being quiet, not being bold. And every time you stepped outside those lines, something happened. You were corrected, judged, embarrassed, compared. So your mind learned an important lesson early in life: visibility is dangerous. Mistakes are costly. Trying too hard invites shame. That lesson never left you. As you grew older, the rules changed, but the conditioning stayed the same. Suddenly, you were expected to be ambitious, confident, self-motivated, but no one taught you how. They just assumed you should know. So when you failed to stay consistent, when you lost motivation, when you quit halfway, you blamed yourself. But your brain was doing exactly what it was trained to do. Avoid pain, avoid uncertainty, avoid judgment. Your brain is not designed to make you successful. This is why you can feel deeply inspired at night, full of dreams and ideas, and feel completely empty the next morning. Inspiration speaks to who you want to become. Conditioning speaks to what you were taught to survive. And survival almost always wins. This is also why motivation feels fake after a while. Motivation tells you to push harder, but your nervous system remembers what pushing once cost you. So it pulls the emergency brake. You feel tired without being tired, overwhelmed without doing much, distracted without reason. And the cycle repeats. You try, you stop, you feel guilty, you escape. Over time, guilt turns into identity. I'm just not disciplined. I never finish anything. This is just how I am. But that identity was never chosen by you. It was installed. And the most dangerous part of conditioning is this: you don't feel controlled. You feel broken. You don't see a cage. You see a flaw. But here's what most people never realize. You are not afraid of hard work. You are afraid of effort without certainty. You are not scared of failing. You are scared of failing again, emotionally. Because every past failure added weight, every unfinished goal became evidence, every broken promise to yourself lowered trust. So now, before you even begin, your mind asks a question: what if we try and prove once again that we can't? To protect you from that pain, it convinces you not to start at all, and we call that laziness. But laziness is not a lack of desire. It is a lack of psychological safety. Your brain does not feel safe trying anymore. That is not your fault. But it is your responsibility to change. And change does not begin with motivation. It begins with unlearning. Unlearning the belief that you must feel ready before you act. Unlearning the idea that confidence comes first. Unlearning the habit of waiting for the perfect moment. The people you admire didn't wake up disciplined. They trained their nervous system to tolerate discomfort. They showed up tired. They worked while doubting themselves. They continued long after excitement disappeared. Not because they were fearless, but because they stopped listening to fear as truth. They failed forward instead of freezing. And slowly, something shifted. Their brain learned a new association. Effort no longer meant danger. Discomfort no longer meant shame. Consistency began to feel familiar. That is how discipline is built. Not in dramatic moments, not through intensity, but through boring, repeated proof. Proof that you can keep going. Proof that quitting is no longer the default. Proof that you are capable of finishing. This process is quiet. No one applauds it. No one sees it. But it rewires everything. One day you realize you no longer negotiate with yourself every morning. You no longer wait to feel motivated. You no longer identify as the person who can't. You didn't become someone new. You removed what was never you. So if you are struggling right now, truly hear this. There is nothing wrong with you. You are not late. You are not behind. You are not defective. You are undoing years of conditioning, and that takes patience. But once you understand this, self-hatred loses its power. Shame no longer controls you, and progress finally becomes possible. Not fast, not easy, but real. And real change is the only kind that lasts. And here's the part most people never talk about. When you finally decide to change, when you finally say enough is enough, your mind doesn't celebrate. It panics. Because change threatens the identity you've been living with for years, even if that identity hurts you. Your brain would rather stay miserable and familiar than uncomfortable and unknown. That's why the moment you start doing better, a strange resistance appears. You procrastinate more. You doubt yourself harder. You suddenly remember all the reasons it might not work. This isn't sabotage. This is your old identity fighting for survival. For years, you were the person who tried and quit, the person who planned and delayed, the person who talked more than they acted. That version of you feels safe because it's known. Growth feels dangerous because it demands responsibility. Because if you really try, you remove your excuses. And that is terrifying. So your mind whispers things like, "I'll start tomorrow. You need more information. This isn't the right time. We're not ready yet." Not to stop you forever, just to delay you long enough so the discomfort fades. Most people listen. That's why most people stay the same. But the moment you stop arguing with your thoughts and start acting anyway, something rare happens. You break the pattern. You don't feel confident. You don't feel motivated. You feel awkward, slow, and unsure, and yet you move. That single act sends a powerful signal to your brain. We're doing this now. At first, your brain resists. It throws emotional tantrums. It increases fatigue. It amplifies distractions. This phase is where most people quit again. Not because it's hard, but because it feels wrong. It feels unnatural to act without motivation when you've been waiting for motivation your entire life. But discipline doesn't feel good in the beginning. It feels foreign. That discomfort is not a sign you're failing. It's a sign you're rewiring. Every time you follow through despite resistance, your brain updates its map of reality. It learns that effort does not equal punishment. It learns that discomfort does not equal danger. It learns that you can survive unfinished feelings. And slowly, very slowly, the internal friction decreases. What once felt impossible becomes manageable. What once felt heavy becomes routine. Not exciting, routine. That's when people misunderstand success. They think successful people are always inspired. They're not. They're trained. They train their nervous system to tolerate boredom, to tolerate doubt, to tolerate doing the same thing without instant reward. That tolerance is the real skill. Not intelligence, not talent, not luck. Tolerance. Tolerance for discomfort. Tolerance for uncertainty. Tolerance for being bad before being good. You were never taught this. You were taught to perform well or stop trying. So when progress wasn't immediate, you assumed something was wrong. But real growth is quiet. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't feel powerful at first. It feels lonely because the old version of you is gone and the new version hasn't fully arrived yet. This is the in-between. Most people turn back here. They return to habits that numb them. They return to distractions that comfort them. They return to identities that explain their pain instead of solving it. But if you stay in this uncomfortable middle, something changes. Your self-trust begins to rebuild. Not because you succeeded, but because you showed up. Not because you were perfect, but because you didn't disappear. That's when confidence starts forming. Not loud confidence, quiet confidence. The kind that doesn't need validation. The kind that doesn't collapse when no one is watching. You stop making promises you don't intend to keep. You stop over-planning. You stop talking about what you'll do. You just do the next small thing. And that scares people around you. So they minimize your effort. They joke about it. They doubt it will last. Not because they hate you, but because your growth threatens their comfort. This is another test. If you seek permission to grow, you will never grow. You don't need applause. You need alignment. Alignment between what you say and what you do. And alignment is built in silence. Day by day, action by action. No dramatic transformation, no overnight success. Just fewer negotiations with yourself. Until one day you realize something shocking. You no longer identify with the person you used to be. You remember them, but you don't live as them. You don't say, "I'm trying to be disciplined." You say nothing. You just are. And that's the moment you understand. You were never lazy. You were never broken. You were never incapable. You were never incapable. You were simply trained for a life you were never meant to live. And now you're training yourself for the one you choose.